missiles, but the missiles, of course, are still in a work, and the effects are as well. So you can see there a bunch of lasers. Hey guys, Space Marine 658 here, and I am here to bring you another devlog. Today we are going to be talking about the graphical updates that I've made to the game. Last time I kind of showed off a little bit about the plan stuff. There have been some changes made, such as we can see here the shaders had some love done to it, so it looks a little bit better, as well as the light actually reflects a little bit more realistically. Still not 100% because sunlight's coming from there, but that's, sort of at a right degree angle versus the player, versus it's more head-on. But it fits kind of more stylistically. So let's go ahead and get this started up. So you can see here, man, every time I see it, it still looks beautiful. Having the planet here reflect off of the actual ship just looks gorgeous. But as you can see here off initially, we've got some UI updates down the bottom right. I made some changes so it a little bit more accurately reflects the speed the player is going. That was a little off, the settings weren't quite right. Still, you do some work on the bottom left. That's your level as the player. I still want to do some changes there. Top left, that is the fuel of the ship. As you can see, it's passively burning some fuel. The actual fuel rate burning is not set in stone yet. Need to kind of tweak that once I get the actual game up and running. And then we've got heat. Now this is actually one of the most important parts. This is actually what kind of affects the stealth of the ship and stuff. So as you can see there's not any heat burning, but if we were to start moving, you'd see that, as you can see, there's not any kind of flames or anything. That's what I need to add next, is some more effects to the ship itself. But you can see the heat's building up a little bit, and that will actually, if I open up these flaps here, now it's all drained away because I've opened up the flaps. Eventually I want to have a delay sort of as they open up. But as you can see here, there is these heat pipes, and these will kind of heat up and start to go red. Some of this I showed off in the last video, but we're going to get into the new stuff here. But then as you can see over here to my left, so this is the station. Let's actually go ahead and dock with the station here. When this happens, this is going to actually have an animation. As it is right now, it's mostly just automatic. But what I've changed here is a lot of the station UI. So we've got a bit nicer looking UI. It's still very much subject to change because I'm still going to add stuff into the actual station UI here. Right now it's just refueling and changing loadout. Eventually there'll be the ability to talk to certain characters and get quests and things like that. It's all going to be very simple because I want this to be reasonable, because I want this to get completed. As I've said before, the timeline is this needs to be finished as a complete game and uploaded to Steam by December of 2023. And so there is no, extending it, no pushing it out. This will be out then, come hell or high water. So unless something really bad happens and then just lose everything, which I back up everything to the cloud anyways. But if that were to happen, that's the only way anything would change. So expect to see something about that. So in here, I can go ahead and change the loadout. Now what this does, this changes the loadout for the first missile round. Because eventually what I have is you can eventually be able to set, and you can technically do it as it is now, set each individual missile tube up with specific missile types. So if I go in here, for example, I can change these ones like this, and it'll actually keep it. So I hit apply, let's close out of this, and then go back to loadout. It's saved. If we were to leave the station and come back, it would also keep it, so no worries there. But let's go ahead and we can actually test it out and see those lasers. It may be a little hard to see. I believe I've extended them out so they last a little bit longer than normal. But they may be a little hard to see because there's a lot of effects going on. There's going to be the enemy ship's going to be firing off its guns. The missiles are going to be swirling around trying to reach it. It's a smaller ship. Eventually it's going to be bigger ships. They can take a lot more fire. So it'll be a lot easier to see these kind of effects. As well as you can see here, the crosshairs actually changed. Now that we've got actually a skybox, I made something that fits a little bit better in the style, as well as a little easier to see against the background. Against these really bright parts, it might be still a little hard to see. So I might put like a very thin outline in like black or something to make it a little easier to tell what's going on there. But those are very unlikely to be, very common. Most times it's gonna be an all black background, or black and blue, something like that. So you'll be able to see it a lot easier. And then off to the right here, you can see that we have an actual sort of HUD set up for the ship here. That actually, as it is right now, if you want to, speaking of which, have a ship named after you, or put a name for a ship in the description down below, The way it's currently set up is if I place a ship in the game, I can actually name it a specific name. But if it is not, if it's spawned in, I can have it randomly draw from a list of names that I've got set aside. So right now it's just Alpha Beta Charlie. That's just more for testing purposes to make sure it kind of randomly picks properly. But eventually I'll be able to place in manually ships and also have a list of names, and that's kind of what I'm working on in the next couple of months. So if you see this video and you'd like to have a ship named after you, definitely throw a comment down below. I'll make sure it fits sort of the style. So, if your thing was Jason 758, or if you want to name it, the Kriegsmarine, I'm going to make it so it fits a little better, so the names fit with the ships. But as it is right now, so you'll get a ship name. Now these are basically designations, story-wise, designations given by the actual faction you are a part of. They don't have any basis in reality for what the enemy calls them. So don't worry about like what specifically gets named after you. But there's going to be class classification. So each ship has a specific weight tonnage, and that's going to determine its stealth ability. There's a whole bunch of factors that are going to go into it. But those basic weight tonnages, as you use your radar to more accurately refine them, you're going to learn more about the enemy ships, about the size of them. So, it calls it a cruiser here. In the final version, it might have a bunch of question marks. And then as you passively listen to these ships, or if you actively ping them and try to get more information, which will draw their attention, it'll update, and maybe, instead of cruiser initially, it might pop up with cruiser, but then it might add a prefix. So like a light cruiser or a missile cruiser. Get more specific and nitty gritty, because there's a lot of types of cruisers: heavy cruisers, battle cruisers, and so as you get more information, that'll sort of build up. And then as well as the very bottom, that last number, that is actually the speed of the current ship you are fighting. That is relative to the local speed. So for example, our ship is going 0 miles an hour. Now, of course, in orbit, ships don't go 0 miles an hour. That's unrealistic. But for purposes of gameplay, it is the relative speed. So compared to the station that you go to very frequently, that's what I'm basing it off of. You are going 0 miles an hour. But if you start going to the left, let's take off the brakes, that'd probably help. You can see now we're going 1 meter a second. So we started picking up, so we're picking up some speed. So let's actually go ahead and launch some missiles off of the ship. See if we can see. There's also been some new effects added to missiles, but the missiles, of course, are still in at work, and the effects are as well. So you can see there a bunch of laser blasts. Now, those were put on extended timers. That way I could just show them off. In actual gameplay, it'd be much shorter. So as you can see there, those missiles launched off. They killed that ship. And as well, we completed the quest. So it popped up, said completed. Quest system is still under work, but that's basically going to be the main way I tell the story. There's probably going to be a few little cutscenes for the high detail, cool stuff there throughout that's going to be kind of sprinkled in. But those require a lot of work, so those are kind of put on the back burner until towards the end of the game. So in here, in this sort of setup quest system, this is still, like I said, very heavily under work here. This is where we can actually find quests. So anything labeled this kind of yellow is going to be our side quests. So we can see specifically, what are our side quests. We can track them. This is our objective. This is just a placeholder so I can kind of test the different string systems. When we come over here to the main quests, we can actually lock in this quest. And so this one is sort of an outline of what would happen. So, here's what's going on. You have current objective, so dock with the port. I'll probably be more specific in the final game. You got Port Winston is the area that we're working in. This will have different areas depending on where we're docking with and where we're going to. Any port in a storm is the name of the quest, as well as the main quest that you can see here. And eventually there's supposed to be rewards down here that'll kind of show you what's going on. So let's go ahead and see here. And I also need to fix that UI on the right. That one's still, like I said, a placeholder. But you can see here there's sort of a pop-up saying, hey, here's where you need to go. And as you can see, now you can't see it off screen. I've been trying to work on a system to let us see that. It's a very much a pain in the butt. Eventually, I'd like to get some kind of indicator that, hey, your quest that you're assigned, you need to go over here. Let's go ahead and take off the brakes and head over this way now that we've completed that quest. Now, as you'll see, previously we docked with it. You can see we're moving about 2 meters per second, and it about fits the speed. Sometimes in games it's kind of hard to get that correct, but it looks mostly right. So as we get pretty close, this will actually change. There we go. And now we're docked up. So now it's completed. As you can hear, there's actually an audio cue for when a quest is completed. There's actually a visual cue as well. You couldn't see it on this one. You could see it in the last quest we completed. Eventually, I'd like to have it actually pop up over top of this, but right now that's still a system in progress. So there's a few bugs with it that I'm still working through. But you can see here, we met with this port, so we completed that quest. So we close this. We actually take a look here. That quest is no longer in our quest logs. This is sort of our all. It usually pops up first is, that all. You have your main, side, completed, and then aborted. So if we go completed, our first quest was to survive. So this is the one we actually did first. This one actually had some rewards. There is a scroll bar here. I can't seem to get it to function. I'm still working through that because I've got other scroll bars that work just fine, but for some reason this one just will not move. You see here we killed our target, and then the next port was a port in a storm. So we docked and it completed that quest. So go back here. But yeah, so that has been the majority of what I've been working on, is a lot of UI, a lot of graphical improvements, kind of just trying to make the game look a little bit better. There's been a lot of behind the scenes work too that I can't really show because it's sort of coding things that just don't make for good content. But I am hoping that now that I've gotten a lot of stuff complete, I'm going to start making some better improvements, making the missiles work a little bit better, make them look a little bit more like an actual volley of missiles. Right now they sort of fly out and spread apart, which looks really nice, but then when they all head towards the target, they all like group up together and almost collide. So to kind of stop that from happening, I want to have them kind of go off in random directions a little bit, kind of like they would in real life, and then converge. That way they kind of have some space between each other. As well as I want to make some search and rescue vehicles. So as you can see, the ship over here, there's a sort of a destroyed part to it. Eventually you'll be able to actually recover materials from these kind of ships, as well as crew from the enemy you're fighting. I don't want to get too more into that. But you'll be able to recover crew and stuff, and you'll be able to find out more information, as well as you'll actually be able to recover friendly crew from ships that have been destroyed or damaged and things like that. As it is right now, it's mostly just for looks. Eventually be able to actually, have some things come in. As well as these ships actually will kind of tumble off. So if you shoot an enemy that's flying around, they sort of, once they lose power and their engines go out, they'll actually kind of tumble off in a direction. So that's going to look really nice once it's completed. So you can chase it down, sort of match velocity. That's something I've kind of worked on and been able to get somewhat working, is matching velocity. The hard part is once you've matched, being able to then remove yourself from that velocity. So say like, get closer to them. Getting something like that to work has been a little bit of a pain. But alright, so I believe that is just about it. Most of what's left for this next bit, for our next video, is going to be a few more changes behind the scenes, and then I want to work on a lot of the player ship. So as right now, you've got about I think it's 12 or 15 missiles that can launch. The final ship total is going to be a lot more. There's you see back here, all these holes going to be filled in with missile tubes. And on the front here, these are all going to have missile tubes, as well as all those little platforms are all point defense platforms. I'm going to get those all in and get them functioning. And then as well, I want to get in all of the engines actually up and functional. And then I want to have some lighting down here, because as of right now, these are kind of dark. This is where the actual search and rescue vehicles will come out of. That way they can go and find and rescue the ships that you are looking for, whether it be enemy or friendly. Then I'm going to hopefully have some models in for the stations, just placeholders. They're a little bit more detailed, so that I can make it look a little bit better, kind of flesh it out and stuff. But yeah, otherwise, I think that is it for today. We'll go over some more stuff next video. Otherwise, make sure to leave a like, comment, and subscribe. The normal YouTuber stuff for the algorithm. Otherwise, good luck and good hunting.